Vincent Cassell's director of choreography, his character as director of choreography, director of the ballet, gathers his dancers. And he tells them that they all know the story of a virginal girl, pure and sweet, trapped in the body of a swan. What does she desire? She desires freedom. And he tells them only that true love can break the spell, and that her wish is nearly granted in the form of a prince. But before he can declare his love to her, her evil, lustful twin, the black swan, tricks and seduces him. Devastated, he says, the white swan leaps off a cliff, killing herself, and in death finds freedom. To his dancers, he describes the story of the Swan Queen. Tonight, we describe the story of Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan.
I don't think there's popular media, whether it be music or television, movies, literature, even though I don't know if I'd consider literature popular media, but at one time it actually was. All of these venues are ripe with examples of obsessiveness and the need to either be the best or to excel at a thing in such a way as to become genre-breaking, trend-setting. I'm not sure the word exactly that I'm looking for. I'm just basically innovative and new. But you got to ask yourself, what are the costs that you pay for that kind of greatness? What's the cost in both your physical disintegration and your mental disintegration in achieving this? Darren Aronofsky in 2010 explored that world with Black Swan, and he had done an equal, if not in some ways better job, for me at least, in 2008's The Wrestler. Two completely different worlds, however parallel in their self-destructiveness, in their need to find greatness through the abuse of the body, in seeking perfection. The Wrestler was a straight up, somewhat biographical. I mean, there's so many examples that you could take from the world of WWF, WWE, NWA, the many regional wrestling associations that dotted the country throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But Black Swan, because of its, I don't know if you would call it its grand artistic standing, ballet itself. It comes off as a just an overpowering and somewhat, for me at least, a difficult world to find myself entering in. But this is the testament of a great film, and this is without a doubt a great film. Yeah, there are stylistic choices that I have problem with in the film, and a little bit too much reliance on the main character seeing herself throughout the film. It's a little bit too. I think a little bit less would have been more in the case of this film, but that's a stylistic choice, and anyway. For me to go in to this world and find myself captivated and compelled by the psychological and physical abuse makes it a very human story. And I think that's where Aronofsky's film really excels. If you've ever been consumed by a thing and found yourself losing your own humanity into it, I personally think that's the appeal of this film. Beyond the horror, beyond the pyrotechnics of the film, beyond the beauty of the dance and the cinematography and a lot of that, I think it really is the paranoia and the feelings of inadequacy that the main character, Nina Sayers, experiences. I think if you go into this movie and if you've had any kind, it's so well done. It's a story that's been done so often, but it is so well done that it really makes you marvel at what standard genre is capable of. If you have a great story, if you have somebody coming at it with the heart that Aronofsky as the director and everybody involved in the creation of this film, I think it's just wonderful. Now, as always, my question as I hand over the discussion to you, Mr. Chavez, is regarding your relationship to this film. But more specifically, what was it that drew you into wanting to see it in the first place? Was it Aronofsky's Pi, into Requiem, into The Wrestler, into this? Because this might be the last great film that he made. Everything else he's made everything he's made after this has really fallen short, as far as I'm concerned, of what I've seen. Especially Mother, which one day I hope to discuss on this show, because I feel that it's necessary to discuss films that we don't particularly care for. In this case, I don't particularly care for. So after that long-winded diatribe, please let me know what brought you to this film.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, well, anytime certain directors come out with something new, it's like, oh, let's go see it. Right? Yeah. There are exceptions.
Exceptions with directors or exceptions with films in that director's canon? Because you never saw Mother, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Because
Sorry.
you just mentioned Mother, but I'm like, well, I'm here, but I have one foot over here, but I have one foot over there, because it's like, what made me watch Black Swan? Well, Darren Aronofsky came out with a new movie, so at that time, so it's like, so let me watch it. But then that wasn't, for whatever reason, enough for me to watch fucking Mother, because I haven't seen it. I didn't watch Noah, but I watched The Whale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that. I don't remember the first time I saw Black Swan, but I know that I saw it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember. I don't remember if I saw it by myself. I don't remember. I have no idea. I had seen Pi. I think Pi was the first one I saw. I think I rented that, and then I saw Requiem, and which we just spoke about, and Requiem was like, okay, this is another guy to look out for, mm-hmm. and of multiple people to look out for at that time when we were in a moment of like cinematic flourishing, right? Yeah. So my relationship to Black Swan is more my relationship to Fight Club, because it to me it's another version of Fight Club, which is to say it's another version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. An old story. I mean, a story that's been told countless times,
Yeah.
the doppelganger, and it comes in part from Dostoevsky's The Double. So, there is that.
Mm. And you mentioned the appeal of the film. I think I think there obviously are a couple things to it. There's the obsessive aspect of getting so consumed by whatever it is and pushing yourself to such a level that you ultimately sacrifice yourself. There's that, but I think the appeal of films like this is giving way to one's bad girl or one's bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of It's the same kind of idea that gets certain companies to brand themselves by using messaging of this like outlaw freedom kind of thing, particularly for Americans. Our culture is very, in the mythology of our founding and of our history, we like to, despite the contradictions and the historical evidence to counter that, we like to present American history as a history of freedom, and freedom and individualism are our central ideas. And so there's something about those things that in media they ring a certain they resonate a certain kind of way with us. And so anytime you have whether it's a personality, whether it's Donald Trump, from that extreme to some rock star to some kind of athlete who goes his or her own way, anyone, we look at those people and we say like, fuck, I want to be that person who is not shackled by these things or seemingly not shackled by these things that I deal with on a daily basis, these self-doubts, these we were talking about before we hit record, we were talking about the idea of like someone looking in the mirror and saying, am I the problem?
Mm-hmm.
How great would it be, regardless of the extent to which we ask ourselves that about anything, or am I good enough, or am I pretty enough, or am I strong enough, or am I tough enough, or whatever, rich enough, blah, blah, all of these aspirations that we're conditioned to basically have, and some of them that we have on our own, to be free of that and to just be like confident and wild and all of these adjectives that you could use. We want to be the Black Swan. We don't want to be Nina in this film. She's described as frigid. She's a ballet dancer, and she's not some fucking like modern free dance thing. She's a ballet dancer, which that also, I mean, dancing is structured, but even in certain forms of dancing that seem less structured, it's because they learned all these rules and then they learned to go outside of them. Ballet is very, very formal. It developed into a court dance for kings. It's very formal. But within that, there's this struggle in Swan Lake between the good swan the white swan, and the black swan, the bad swan, the fucking the Tyler Durden of swans, who isn't fucking repressed, who is everything that Nina, the infantilized character. If you put a tilde is the little curly line over the N that makes it an ñ in Spanish, that makes the sound go ñ, like piñata, like we said in the last episode. If you put a tilde over the second N and, you get niña, that's a girl. She's a girl. She's a grown-up fucking girl. Her room is full of dolls. Her mother, which we'll get into, her mother is a smothering type of figure. She's repressed. She's uptight. She's described as frigid, as I said. Mila Kunis's character kind of is someone that she gets to play off of, she shows up late. They say, "Oh, go ahead and warm up." No, I'm good.
Yeah. Smoking cigarettes and
smoking cigarette. All these things that maybe at this point it's kind of like,
it's cliche. Let's be honest.
It's cliche and it's not even cool anymore. Smoking cigarettes is not even fucking cool. It's kind of like, well, all this stuff comes from the fucking 50s. You know what I mean? Which we're approaching the fucking. Next thing you know, it's going to be the 2050. But from the 1950s of leather jackets, slouching, James Dean wanting to be Marlon Brando, mumbling, riding a motorcycle, hands in your pockets, blowing
what do you
bubbles
got
with
to
your
rebel
gum.
against?
Yeah. What are you rebelling against? What you got? What do you got, Dayo?
With my little cruising leather cap.
The cruising leather cap, which in the 70s would be cruising Al Pacino leather cap.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is another kind of outlaw, releasing his inner black swan. All of these stereotypes of things that you don't color inside the lines. Yeah. You don't act presidential if you're Trump. You do whatever the fuck you want, and some people are outraged, but you're like, oh, they're the prudes. We love it. We fucking, and I don't mean we like that. I'm just saying the people from that perspective are like, we fucking love it. We love fucking people who can act up.
Finally, somebody who's willing to tell the truth. Finally, somebody who's willing to take on the corporations and everything, telling us who we should. Yeah, that bullshit. Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's fucking like Dennis Rodman or take your pick. You all know who I'm talking about. You can all visualize someone that you yourself probably think is, oh, this person is fucking cool because they give off the impression that they are more free than we are. They're successful at it. They get away with it. They can do whatever the fuck they want, or close to it, because we all have these dark shadow aspects to our personality that, there are moments when you want to, maybe you look at someone on the street and there's a sexual thought. There's a violent thought. Get the fuck out of my way when someone is taking too long in the car. And maybe we don't think about fucking driving them off the road, but maybe somewhere deep down inside we do. Maybe it's just we're honking and we honk it just a little bit more to like that fucking emphasis honk, and then it becomes road rage, and then people do fucking drive the other person off the road. It's that, it's what would Tyler Durden do? What would he do? The violence, the sexuality, the quitting your fucking job, take this job and shove it. The person who doesn't have to fucking clock in on time and put his head down and fucking blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing as, this is psychological, like borders on psychological horror, and like that like a thriller, horror, whatever. This is also, and we've talked about this. When you look at horror, there's horror of the other, but there's also the appeal of the transformation. When you see characters, you see whether it's Devil's Advocate, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You see Keanu Reeves is this like righteous fucking bad actor lawyer. But when he gets involved with Al Pacino, the devil, and then the devil's daughter, and they're very sexual and they're very free, and he has this horrible little flamenco moment, and but it means he's passionate, and he speaks all these languages, and he's really fucking cool. But the devil's fucking cool. When it's a vampire, they're very sexual, and they do whatever the fuck they want, except, like typically they can't go out in the daytime, but the daytime sucks. The nighttime's more fun anyway, so fuck it. Werewolf, what happens? Yeah, you turn into an animal, but maybe in the early stages of that, well, now you're stronger, you're more sexual, you're fucking this, you're whatever. The Fly, if you haven't seen The Fly, it's fucking disgusting, but before it gets fucking gross, for about 3 minutes, maybe there's part of it that's cool.
Well, you become stronger. Your senses become, more focused, and you can
become
see.
More alive.
Yeah. Your body,
even if you're supposedly undead, right? You become you're more in tune with some kind of primal thing that we think of as like fundamental to us before we became tamed by civilization.
Yeah.
We become, the way we think of like kids as like more free, and but also kids can be fucking cruel as hell.
Sure.
But we become all of these things. That mixed now with the metaphor of growing up, because it's also like there's the version of the kid that when you're older you look at and you're like, oh, the kid just fucking sleeps when the kid wants to, the kid eats. I mean, but the thing is that the kid has to be fed. When you're a little kid, maybe you want to grow up. Then I'll be free. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to go to sleep at this time. Yeah. I don't have to. And it's like, yeah, you do. You have to work, asshole. Mm-hmm. You don't know. But when you're becoming your own person, you get into, we talked about In the Company of Wolves. You had a problem with the film. I get it.
Yeah.
This is similar because it's a metaphor for, in this case, a girl's sexual awakening and her transition into adulthood, into womanhood, where her connection with the wolf is the connection with her sexuality. This wild, unpredictable, very physical phenomenon is happening to her from inside. And she is now having all of these weird feelings and thoughts and sensations and doesn't know what to do about it. But at the same time is like, well, but I have a hunch. I may not know, but I have a hunch. Mm-hmm. It's easy to figure out. Now add to that another layer, which is the layer of the mom in this film. And I'm just throwing all this shit on top of all this shit because that's what this film does. Yeah. When we did Carrie, and we've done like Hereditary, and we talked about like Babadook and all this shit, like the mother horror aspect, horror connected with the mother, and how does the mother respond to this horror in the home? Even, The Exorcist. How does the mother react? How does the mother trigger fucking all this shit? In this case, this character is, to me, the mother is reminiscent of Carrie. Carrie, not as insane, but like adjacent, Carrie has a controlling mom, a
Hmm.
super ultra religious mom. What happens when she gets her period? What happens with all the revenge stuff? Um, Here, her mom is a former dancer, but also there's this subtext, this lesbianic incestuous subtext in Shadow, which I don't know if you felt it or you saw it. I thought it was there.
Between her and the mother, what I
My
felt,
shadow lesbian,
well, what I
my
felt,
shadow lesbian saw
mhm,
it.
what I felt was, I didn't see that so much as I saw a mother. I saw the standard trope of the mother trying to live through the daughter's success, the
Yes,
failings of the mother. I mean, and that's a very obvious, uh, in some cases, overplayed and overused trope in these types of films. But in it, when they're used well, and you have somebody like Barbara Hershey, who's very good in this film. I think what this film excels at is a commitment to the material in such a way as to not. This could have easily fallen into the world of jump scares and overplaying, and it's not that way. You see a frantic mother. You see a woman who believes she is right in trying to protect her daughter. I mean, she is right in trying to protect her daughter. The manner in which she goes about it is wrong. The way in which she plays this game, where um, trying to have her daughter realize this is the world that you're going into, and because this is what I experienced. However, she never had the talent that her daughter did. But,
plus plus
mhm,
having to. She had a daughter, so
mhm.
she had to leave that world in order to, or she chose to leave that world in order to raise her daughter,
But
and now
that's a
now holds it against her,
well, that's an
but
interesting point
without
because,
realizing it.
well, yeah, but it's also, did she have the daughter? Was it accidental she had the daughter and she chose to raise her? Or did she use the daughter as an
Right,
unconscious excuse to save her from her lack of the necessary
right,
talent in order to
right,
rise? You know what I mean? So
right,
it's like, this is
and
not,
and
yeah.
also and also resents her, even because she's
Hmm.
made herself believe that.
Exactly. And that's the thing that
Um,
we do as human
but she
beings.
loves her.
She does love her, but
No, no,
there's,
but yeah, but I'm italicizing and
oh, like I,
underlining. She loves her though,
uh, oh,
let me,
like George
you
Carlin
know, let
says,
me,
but he loves you.
he loves you. I mean, she does. She
Yeah.
does. I mean, she loves her daughter, but she also she loves her daughter.
Yes.
Um,
There's that.
and
Yeah.
she fucking. I mean, she has a room where she fucking sits and draws pictures of her daughter and paints her,
Hmm.
and cries.
Yeah.
Um, and she also like sits on her bed and looks at her a fucking certain way, because I was like, oh, this wasn't maybe a popular enough pop cultural film to have been turned into a porn spoof. Um,
You know what? I did think
but
about that last night.
yeah, of course you did last
all
night, you
roads,
fucking
all roads,
pervert.
all roads
Um,
lead back to the same fucking filth. Yeah.
um, Give in to the Black Swan.
Yeah.
Um, of course, because fucking she's sitting on her bed and she's fucking looking at her, and I'm like, we've seen this fucking scene, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, where it's like, it's not the former ballet dancer mom, but it's like the evil stepmommy, you know?
Yeah.
Um, anyway, beyond that moment, there's also, she gets her a cake because the story is Natalie Portman's character is part of this ballet company in New York. They're putting on Swan Lake, supposedly this different version in
No,
terms of the
not just a different version, a reimagined from the mind of Thomas.
a reimagined version. Yep, right.
And that's very
Yeah,
important. That's a very just yeah.
it's in certain ways supposed to be more stripped down. Blah 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 blah. Winona Ryder's character is this star of the company who's aging out. She's no longer the favorite of Vincent Cassel's character, who is now looking for a new star dancer to fuck.
A new, younger,
and
prettier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woman to sexually harass in the company and make a star out of. And so now it's Nina's moment. But then there's this new girl in from San Francisco played by Mila Kunis. And so what's going to happen? Who's going to have sex with whom? Who's going to be the Swan Queen, right? And there's all this drama, obviously. And at one moment when finally Nina, the character of Nina, is Natalie Portman's character, is chosen to be the Swan Queen after Vincent Cassel forces himself on her and kisses her, and she bites him, and he sees, I love that. I love the way she resists my fucking
sexual assault,
my advances. Yeah, love it. So he's like, maybe I do see some fucking fire in you. We love people like that here at Miramax. I mean, in this film, you know? And so he casts her. She goes home and she's like, oh, well, before she calls and she's like, he picked me, mommy, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I was just like, it's fucking so cringy because you don't want fucking to see someone be so full of admiration for someone of authority like that you're going to be like, he picked me, mommy. It's like everyone hated Sally Field when she said, you really like me. Everyone hated that.
Yeah. You don't want to see somebody.
Worse.
You don't want to see somebody embrace their abuse that they don't know, that they don't realize. You know, it's fucked up.
Even outside of abuse, I don't want to fucking see someone give their power away to another person like that. I find it fucking like very, very uncomfortable. Which is, I mean, that's great in a film because it's like, don't fucking give your power away.
But it's also the understanding that this happens in life. That this is,
of course,
this is.
We're always navigating that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's always a person who has power that is willing to. And this is the question that I have for you. It's and we discussed it a little bit earlier in our off mic discussion about politics. Is Vincent Cassel a character that truly knows how horrible he is and is just base? Is he an artist who is taking advantage of his position, or is he just a scumbag? I think he's an artist taking advantage.
I think he's a scumbag artist.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an artist.
So that draws into question. Yeah, so that draws into question. Do you know that it exists? Do you turn the other cheek knowing that you're going to see great art, regardless of who is left in its wake? Because these people have a choice, supposedly. I mean, I've watched documentaries, and I've watched it recently since the as far as I'm concerned, welcome death of Hugh Hefner about 3 or 4 years ago. All of these documentaries and all of these, not documentaries, but true crime TV shows have been coming out about Playboy and the poisonous, venomous, disgusting world that was created. The women who were, I think, you could use you could realistically use the word abused, and call Hugh Hefner a pimp scumbag, which is what I have called him for years. But there's also the sense of women going into this world willingly, and the
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Portman character, the rest of the ballerinas in the company, it seems as if they go into this world willingly, give themselves to it, and then realize at the end, when you see the Winona Ryder character drunk and sad and bitter, there has to be a part of you that says you enjoyed some of it. And that's a very
Well, yeah.
troubling aspect of humanity, is that how much do we sell out and believe, how much do we bullshit ourselves into believing that all of this is all right, and when it comes time to pay the bill,
Well, yeah.
you know what I
It
mean?
becomes Chris Christopherson. It was the going up worth the coming down.
Yeah, great quote.
It's. I mean, the Hefner thing, and
Mhm.
eventually we'll
I'm
do
not, I
the
don't think,
Hefner
yeah,
and
I don't
Larry
think
Flint
that's,
and those films and all.
yeah, I don't think it's too far of a reach,
I
though. Do you? I mean,
no, I
it's an
don't.
element of
I
there.
don't think anything's a fucking reach. But um, what a tangled web we weave
Yeah.
when we practice to do a podcast. It's it's. I mean, can you say that he's a pimp because you define pimp as like making money off of women's bodies? Okay, sure, of course.
Making money off of
Um,
anybody's bodies, making sexualizing somebody and selling that sexualization while at the same time abusing the power that you have over them. I mean, it's not just a matter of selling somebody's body. It's a matter of the breakdown that you have to put a person through in order to achieve that goal. Now
well, I
you
mean,
can,
I think there's a distinction between because there are certain people that went through that
mhm,
are like, well, I wanted to do this,
mhm.
um,
And that's the point that I'm
and
making. Yeah.
right, but it's not all fucking hardcore. It's not all fucking
Hmm.
women on drugs all the
No.
time. A lot of times it's multiple levels of like back and forth exploitation.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just fucking straight up capitalism where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna agree to get paid this much. You're gonna agree to pay me this much in exchange for this and this and that. There's the fucking what's her name? That porn star that
Which one?
the one that did Lisa Ann,
Okay. Yeah. Nailin Palin. Yeah.
um, Nayland Palin.
Yeah.
Um, she's very. You see her on podcasts or on interviews. She's very like entrepreneurial. She's
Hmm.
very fucking like, oh, I learned all this. I learned when I was dancing. I learned the hustle of this. I did. She's very much like, okay, now I have my company. I do this. I'm blah blah. I only fuck famous basketball players because that way we're on a certain level, each of us, because we're well known. Blah blah blah. So it's not all fucking American Pimp, where he describes himself as uh, an American werewolf in London looking for little bitches on skateboards, as he describes,
Yeah.
that Bradley guy says. It's There's a lot of different shit to it. Bigger picture, the Hugh Hefners of the world, however you describe them, they also, like Hugh Hefner, also represented a certain moment in a 50s, 60s
Hmm.
bachelor
Well, it's
pad
a
kind of
sexual
jazz.
revolutionary type of
Right.
situation where
So
people were coming to.
there
Yeah.
is more to it than that. And so
Oh, absolutely.
and even compared to a Larry Flint,
Hmm.
Larry Flint was selling sex. Um, Hugh Hefner was selling lifestyle, so that's also different. Now, beyond even bigger picture, now the idea of like Vincent Cassel's character, is he a scumbag or is he an artist? Okay, was Miles Davis a scumbag or was he an artist? Was Picasso a scumbag or was he an artist?
Well, Polanski.
I mean,
The names go on and
right.
on. I mean, shit,
And
and
but
you can even
but even
say,
then,
and this is not a good thing to say, but Harvey Weinstein, scumbag or
Kingmaker, yeah,
kingmaker? Yes, I mean recognizing talent and
for
investing in it.
filmmakers,
You
right?
know what I mean? I
Um,
mean you can't
Absolutely,
deny. If unless you're a complete fucking asshole, you cannot deny the contribution that Harvey Weinstein made to 1990s cinema. Yes, he's a scumbag. Yes, he deserves to be where he is. But some great movies came out of that time.
right.
You
I
know,
mean,
that's a horrible truth.
it is the horrible truth.
Yeah.
And so Vincent Cassel's character's opera, his ballet may have been, you know, the bee's knees, right? But at what cost? Fucking, but does that mean that, like, and that's a bigger question that we're not going to answer, but it's
Yeah.
like, and the thing is, Miles Davis, hitting some lady high off of coke in the fucking elevator, looking at her saying like, bitch, get the fuck out of my car, but they're in the elevator. Like
Oh my God, I got to
that's
read that
abuse.
biography. What the fuck are you talking about?
I've been wanting to buy it for you.
I think I have it. Let's be honest. It might be on the shelf. I'll go look today. Fuck.
Yeah, the Quincy Troop it's the
Yeah, I got
autobiography
it.
of Miles Davis.
It's up there.
Okay, good. Okay, I don't need to buy it for you then.
Bitch,
Yeah,
get out of my car.
he's in something like that. He's high off of it. He crashed his Ferrari
Mm-hmm.
in New York,
Yeah.
in Manhattan. He crashes his Ferrari, runs inside. I don't know I think it's his building. High as fuck. Then this is like during like the dark period,
Yeah.
so like late 70s. He's in an elevator with some lady, and I think he smacks her. And in that Miles Davis, bitch, get out of my car. And she runs out, and he goes and he hides like in some top level,
Mm-hmm.
in some level of the building. Like he hides for like hours, like just fucking high as fuck, coked out. And then he goes into his dark fucking lair where the TV's always on and the volume is always off. And there's that versus there's fucking Roman Polanski.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking Angelica Houston banging on the door because it's at Jack Nicholson's house, but Jack Nicholson's out of town, and Roman Polanski decides he wants to get frisky with a fucking minor.
Yeah.
There's that. There's fucking Woody Allen, like
Yeah. Whole other
the
set
love
problem.
story between Woody Allen and his wife's fucking adopted daughter.
Yeah.
There's Picasso and the fucking women are either goddesses or doormats.
Yeah. There's Bobby Womack and
every
Sam
time-
Cooke's ex-wife.
Yeah. Right.
We can go through that list.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can do that.
And they're all interesting, and we're kind of throwing these stories around like, ha ha ha, like look how fucked up and funny this is, and how entertaining it is, and you listeners at home, I know you motherfuckers are like, tell me more, while you pretend to talk about Black Swan.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more. But it's we're fascinated by the fucking train wrecks, and that's also why we're fascinated by when Vincent Cassel's character describes Winona Ryder's character. Why does she's so self-destructive? But maybe, and this is the romanticism of the fucking like fucked up artist, and artists buy into it too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what made her so great, is that she was like fucked up. It's something that came from within her. He tells Nina, because he wants Nina to tap into those dark impulses that the more the inner crazy, the crazy artist, the artist that the daimon, the Dionysian aspect that Jim Morrison bought into.
Yeah.
and Jim Morrison bought into it, and as can't think of his name right now, Danny. Can't think of. He wrote "No One Here Gets Out Alive," but
Oh,
as
yeah.
he said, "You live like Jim Morrison, you die like Jim Morrison." Jim Morrison bought into it. He bought out of it in death.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did. Um, you buy into it, you're the fucking king. You maybe you die on the toilet. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
Vincent Cassell's character, is he a scumbag or is he an artist? He's both. He's fucking the artist who maybe said like, this is what I can do, or this is what I should do, or fuck it, this is what I want to do. This is how it is. It doesn't matter what I do because I'm helping her bring out this element. And if I want to help her bring out this element, I have to fucking like, I have to put my tongue down her throat.
It's fucked up.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's maybe like, look, I'm French. She's an adult. I'm a fucking adult. We want to fuck. It's sex. Don't be so stupid and American about it. And then shrug and smoke. It's all of this shit. Now in the film, we talked. The reason why we're talking about it is because because of Cornelius. Because
Yeah. Thank you,
Mr.
Cornelius, for
Burroughs.
setting us on this rabbit hole, sending us down this rabbit hole.
Because this is your fault.
Yeah, I know.
This is Cornelius's fault.
Yeah.
Perfect Blue,
Mm-hmm.
about a pop idol who decides to change course, to reinvent herself. And we talked about Miles Davis in the past. We talked about Dylan.
Yeah.
People, when they reinvent themselves, either they fucking like arrive at something that is so much more powerful. Willie Nelson, Marvin Gaye,
Mm-hmm. Or embarrassing, Madonna.
or yeah, but Madonna's fucking still like, call it what you will, whether you
I
like
think watching a
fucking
7-year-old
Lucky
woman
Star or
twerk on
fucking
stage
whatever.
is fucking embarrassing. A 70-year-old woman twerking with, but there was a point where there's
You're
it
still
hits a
talking about
wall.
her.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You're still fucking, you know what I mean? And if it was, and if it were Meryl Streep twerking on there, you'd be fucking throwing fucking compliments at
For the
her. So
bravery
stop.
that Meryl, the greatest of the goat, as they want to call her. Yeah.
The she goat.
Don't you go against my fucking love for Meryl Streep, you motherfucker.
And you know that she probably fucking, you'd say that she twerked better than fucking Madonna anyway. But the thing is,
Yeah.
like, it can go embarrassingly, but like, reinvention is one of those things.
Yeah.
So in Perfect Blue, she wants to now transition into like an actor, this TV star or whatever.
Yeah.
And so all of the fallout of that, and listen to that episode, if you haven't already. So we saw the inspiration of Perfect Blue on Aronofsky, and we talked about Requiem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we mentioned Requiem, and then we did an episode on Requiem. Obviously, the scene, the bathtub shot from above the water, from below the water, where she screams underwater and the bubbles rise up. Perfect Blue, and then you see his version of that very clearly copying it in Requiem. Here, a lot of the thematics, the alter ego stuff, instead of good girl, instead of like alter ego saying like, I want you to be the good girl, this one is like, you need to be the bad bitch. You need to be the fucking Sasha Fierce. You need to fucking like, Beyonce needs to stay off stage and now you need to do this shit. Instead of the former idol manager of Perfect Blue, here we have the has-been mother, or the never was mother, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
The hallucinations, the girl fight with herself, the jumping off stage moment. There's a lot of stuff that's drawn from Perfect Blue. Is it a fucking copy of Perfect Blue? No. Um, the Requiem shot of the bathtub that I just described, that's a copy of it. Done differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's a copy of it the way that fucking the Rolling Stones did copies of fucking blues shit, or the way fucking Led Zeppelin did copies of blues shit. Um, it's not a straight copy, but but it's a cover, and if you know, you know where it comes from.
Yeah.
This is the use of themes and taking those themes and putting them into a different story. Um, in the same way that I talked about, like fucking Fight Club. It's a guy who is trapped in a fucking mundane workaday life. He's not trying to pursue this fucking great role. He's just looking for the next fucking IKEA item that will define him as a person. And he's pushed to the brink where in his mind he finally meets this character who represents all the shadow fucking shit that he's repressed that needs to come out. And it's done well. It's done really well because you're like, what's in that sense? It becomes like Perfect Blue. It's what's real and what's in her mind, and some of them are like half and half.
It's disturbing. It is incredibly disturbing, and at first, I mentioned this earlier, where the back and forth of using the not the doppelganger, but Natalie Portman seeing herself. At first, I thought it was a little bit,
Reflections.
yeah, the reflections, but also I thought it was a little bit too heavy-handed at a certain point. But that's when I was watching it. When you look back on it, because I had forgotten how this movie ended. I really did. Not the ending. I remember the ending. But I forgot how it played out. I should better say. And like we talk about every aspect of the film. So if you haven't seen the film, turn this shit off and go, because we're going to talk. The fact that she hasn't killed Mila Kunis's character Lily in a struggle, and her finally realizing that Aronofsky has fucked with you so many times throughout this movie that it does reach a point where you don't know what is real.
Mm-hmm.
And up until the very last moment, the only thing that you can be assured of, and even then, it's like she kills her. She dies. She has she has she has stabbed herself in the stomach in this prolonged fight that doesn't exist with another person. It's her. It's her fighting herself. It's her. It's her. I guess you could say psychosis taking over her being, and you're never really sure what the fuck is going on in this movie at a certain point. I think he would. I think Aronofsky would lose his mind later on when he made Mother, because that movie makes no fucking sense. And maybe it does if I were to see it again, but that first viewing I was like, wow, this guy has crawled up his own fucking bullshit. This guy really believes his own bullshit. But in this film, it's a perfect balance. It's really well done because I don't know if you felt I don't know if you felt like the back and forth and the constant Natalie Portman turning in, whether Lily or her mother turning into Natalie Portman, if if it ever started to annoy you, it annoyed me. But as I finished watching it, I realized that's that was perfect. That was the way it had to be. It had to go there in order to sell me on this idea of I had to I had to be taken to the point of disliking it in order to not be sure of what the hell it was that I was seeing. You know, does that make sense?
It makes sense. I didn't feel the same way
Hmm.
because to me it's like it's about how you have to see yourself in order to navigate a new or the same situation but
Yeah.
through a different. It's like in Seinfeld that and I don't like that show. I don't watch it, but the and I don't like him. I fucking don't like that guy.
Larry David or Jerry
The
Seinfeld? Just to
Jerry
clarify.
Seinfeld.
Okay.
I don't like. Yeah, I don't like fucking Seinfeld.
That's a
He annoys
conversation
me.
for another time. I'm interested in that.
We're having it now. I don't like him. I'm kidding. No, no. So no, I fucking there's an episode that supposedly George Costanza, from what little I know, and I think I've seen clips. My friend showed me. Um, he does everything opposite,
Oh
and
yeah,
he has
yeah.
all these fucking results.
Hmm.
Um,
Positive results. He's
he has
portrayed
positive
as a shit
results
character, and when he goes against his better judgment, things start to work out for him. Yeah, I remember that
because
episode.
he's doing the point is that he's doing everything differently, and you see stuff like that in you hear stories or you
Hmm.
see other films where it's like maybe this person survives some kind of like they have this life altering event, and so now they lose their fear. What's that movie where the guy
Fearless.
Fearless is that what it's
That
called?
movie's Fearless. Jeff
Um,
Bridges. It's a good movie.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so now he's like, or you don't survive a thing. You're diagnosed with your Queen Latifah, and you're diagnosed with some fucking illness, and then now you're gonna fucking live
Hmm.
because you have
Last day.
limited
Yeah.
time now.
Last holiday.
You're gonna fucking live your actual
Hmm.
life, and then it turns out, oh, that wasn't blah blah and blah. Now you learn this lesson, or maybe you fucking go and you're like, fuck this, I need a makeover. I need a fucking makeover, and you go and you get your haircut, and you get a haircut that's completely different um, than what you would normally get. You tell the person like, dude, I want something crazy. I want something different. I want to feel like a different fucking person. I want to feel new. And so they fucking cut off your hair, and then now it's like, oh shit, like
Hmm. Angela
my
Bassett.
mom
Yeah.
at one point my mom cut her hair short, and it brought out this it was like a physical representation of her bad attitude
Hmm.
um and her sense of like defiance and what I call her lesbian art dealer persona, um and it suits her. It just fucking suits her.
Yeah.
And certain things happen every time you get for those of us who are addicted to tattoos. You you're killing that old empty spot on your body, and you're becoming more of what you want to represent aesthetically, whatever, symbolically, however. You fucking get your ear pierced. You're a teenager, and you're like, at one point, I I don't know if I was 11 or I don't know what I was, and I got a knife and I slashed the fuck out of my jeans. And it was that moment where my mom was like, "What the fuck?" She may not have said that. She may have, but like, what? Why did you do that? And it's like, shut up, bitch. No, I didn't tell her that, but
Did you get all surly with the lip? Why not?
it's fucking yeah. What do you got? Um, it's I don't know.
Yeah.
You stabbed yourself before the fucking performance because I mean that's kind of obvious. Like she has to fucking kill the good little girl so that the bad bitch can go fucking like she can be like in her fucking bad bitch era, as they say nowadays, on
Hmm.
stage. That and then the downside is like going back to Miles Davis, like the jazz guys at that time, they all wanted to be like Charlie Parker, who
Hmm.
was a fucking raging heroin addict,
Yeah.
and who was also a genius.
We got to
And
do that movie at
they
some
mistakenly,
point. Yeah.
they mistakenly, yeah, Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie McLean used to talk about that all the time because he was one of the devotees of Bird, and they would all follow Bird around in everything, including fucking shooting up, because they all thought that if they shot up, a byproduct of that would be fucking improvisational fucking genius. And guess what? It wasn't. Um, so it's that thing. It's in that sense, it's kind of like the selling your soul to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's embracing the black swan, going to the crossroads at midnight, and down in Clarksdale.
Yeah.
And you take your fucking guitar and you hand it to Scratch. He tunes it, strums it a little bit, hands it back, and now you can play "Why Don't You Come in My Kitchen" or whatever, because it's going to be raining outdoors, and supposedly now you're good, but you're going to fucking die, supposedly crawling on the floor, howling, barking like a dog.
7 years later.
Because some jealous husband husband poisoned you or whatever. And you're going to set the tone for a bunch of fucking rock stars to die at that age for fucking like decades and decades. It's Beauty and the Beast. It's a tale as old as time. But the Beauty and the Beast is the same person in this case. And there's something really appealing about that, where it's like, don't you want the fucking bad one to win? When it's the same person?
Yeah.
But what happens if you could control it to where you can have elements, and this is like supposedly like the Jungian psychologically, like this is the integrated person who can still be a functional, like so-called normal person in society, but who has come to terms with all their dark shit and has found a way to express it, and can still, you can still be civil, but you can still tell someone how you feel and be honest about it and be assertive. You don't have to be an asshole, but you can be like, I disagree with you. You don't have to fucking say, fuck you, and lose it, right? That balance is supposedly what, like, the healthy person wants. But do we want that in the cinema? No. We want to see the fucking destruction. We want to see the train wreck. We want to see, like,
but
either it's like a happy ending, okay, but...
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, there's a train wreck in this film. I mean, you're watching it, and by all accounts...
Everybody's a train wreck in this film.
Everybody's a train wreck in this film.
Except probably Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis' character is the most down-to-earth. She seems like she's like fucked up, but she's actually the one that's
she's the freest.
I think, like the most sane one.
Yeah,
she's
and she plays it well too.
Yeah, because she's just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna give you some drugs and I am gonna mix them in your drink, but you're gonna know it. But like, fuck, just live a little. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Versus the mom, and I wasn't done talking about the lesbian mom shit. Let's talk about that. Let me bring that back. There's a moment where she fucking... I was talking about the cake.
Yes,
so Vincent Cassel brings her the cake. No, Vincent Cassel picks her as the swan queen.
Yeah.
So her mom gets her this little pink frilly cake. But she's a ballet dancer, so she's not supposed to eat. She's only supposed to fucking like starve and dance.
Throw up. Yeah.
So and throw up, right? And so she's like, I can't have a lot. So the mom's like, come on here. And then so she takes like a dollop with her finger and holds it to Natalie Portman's mouth, like, suck the cake off my finger, bitch. Like, here, I'm giving this to you. I love you. And that was already like, okay, porn spoof coming. But then she freaks the fuck out, like when she's like, no, or whatever. She's like, gonna throw it away, and then it gets like Psycho Mom. But then there's that moment. Then there's another moment where she's like caressing her. And she's like, oh, what did he do? when they're talking about how Vincent Cassel's character is
He has a reputation.
seducing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a reputation. He's seducing / sexually fucking harassing his lead dancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, maybe he just wants you all to himself, and she's like rubbing her back, and then she's like, yeah, I don't blame him.
I didn't hear that. Wow. Oh shit! Really? That's fucked up. Okay. Now I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fucked
What
up.
would be fucked up is if people go and look at that scene and they're like, she doesn't say that. That would be fucked up.
Maybe it is.
But just go with it.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just like Barbara Hershey plays it like she plays all of that subtext.
Yeah.
Where
does.
it's like it's where you can play, I resent you, I love you, I want to protect you, I want to be you, you fucked up my life, I should have never had you, I have these weird sexual potential feelings towards you, all at the same time. If you can do that, that's fucking gold in a performance.
Yeah.
Because, like, how many times every day do you see a performance that's one fucking note?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's like a director telling an actor, like, okay, your note is to be sad. Like, that's not a good note. That's not a note. That's general. That's bullshit. It can't be sad. It has to be specific. It has to be, this puppy is lost, but this puppy is also Jesus Christ. And on and on and on. And this puppy, if you don't find this puppy in 5 minutes, your grandmother is going to be skinned alive by Donald Trump's grandmother. Well, whatever, you know? And
Yeah.
it has to be that fucking specific,
Mm-hmm.
and there has to be that level of, like, stakes
Investment
in a performance.
stakes. Yeah. There has to be.
And that's what Vincent Cassel's character, I mean, is trying to get Nina's character to deal with in terms of, like, her situation. But going back to the Barbara Hershey thing, it's like, I think her performance is probably the best performance in film. Better than Natalie Portman's, because Natalie Portman's is bolstered by the circumstances of the story,
Mm-hmm.
and by editing,
Mm-hmm.
and by all, and everyone is supporting her in that role.
And it's kind of interesting because Barbara Hershey, who was at one time not really a star, but a well-known character actor, very well-known character actor, just shy of being a star, I think, my opinion. She falls into the professional world in real life, the professional actors world of, now I'm at an age where I'm playing the mom. And if you remember in the late, I guess it was the late 80s, early 90s, a big deal had been made about her being one of the first. I think she was very open about her plastic surgery, her lips, her breasts. And I don't know if she did this right before or right after Last Temptation of Christ, but there was a big deal about that. And in a weird way, it felt, even back then, it felt like a desperate attempt to stay relevant. Because if you look at her from Hannah and her sisters into the later films, there's a marked difference. And now she's actually playing the mother, and she's older, and she's still attractive in this movie physically. But you can tell that there is age there, that she's not the young Barbara Hershey that we knew from the 1980s and some of the films that she did then. It's a all of that plays into the performance and the role, and I think it's you take into account a mother who was part of like Natalie Portman tells her, you never made it out of the Corps,
Yeah.
you know, and you contrast that with, and we haven't talked about this, but you were a huge fan of Winona Ryder, and to see her in this
Yeah, I like
film,
Winona.
yeah, to see her in this film, it's kind of sad. It's kind of. I mean, I don't mean to overemphasize Winona Ryder's importance, but to our generation, she was very important. Um, it's kind of like watching Stroheim in Sunset Boulevard, where
Mm.
you see where Winona Ryder, you see Heathers, you see Bram Stoker's Dracula, you see The Age of Innocence, you see this young, cute, very
Yeah, I mean,
attractive.
yeah,
We
Reality
remember,
Bites,
yeah,
fucking.
you and I
Um,
remember the Johnny Depp years. We
hmm
remember what
Yeah,
at that time, and to see her
yeah, Edward
broken,
Scissorhands.
yeah, she's she's damaged in a way, and she hadn't done anything for a long time when she did this film. And I think this was right after the shoplifting incident. I can't remember. I can't be sure of the timeline, but I want to believe
I
that.
feel like I
Yeah,
feel like the shoplifting was earlier.
that's what I'm saying. And we hadn't seen her, and so that shoplifting thing was fucked up. And you're asking, what the hell was that all about? So to see Winona Ryder make a reappearance here, broken. She's drunk. She's old. She's not. She's not Heather's anymore. She's not Edward Scissorhands. She's not the Muse. She's not. You can see her being pushed out, and how much of that plays into the character that she's doing, as well as 10 years later from this, the Netflix series Stranger Things. It's it it's a weird. There's a lot going on here about the the trajectory of women in the entertainment industry and how this shit really does eat them up and destroys them. It destroys their body. It destroys their minds. It destroys. And I'm not playing bleeding heart in this situation. I'm only recognizing what happens to a performer and how that performer brings it out. So when you cite Barbara Hershey, yeah, incredible performance.
Hmm
But Winona Ryder is doing something along the same lines, and it's feeding where Barbara Hershey is the generalization of what happens to women in the industry. I think Winona Ryder's is a little
Yeah,
bit more specific to what happened to Winona Ryder and that must
yeah,
have been incredibly difficult. And I marvel at the balls that it took Darren Aronofsky to have to approach her to play this role, because you can't imagine that it didn't that her history, good and bad, didn't play into the casting of this performance.
yeah. I mean, like it went from like I think of her in terms of like you have the Beetlejuice,
Hmm.
Heather's
Yeah.
years. Um, I would say Beetlejuice, Heather's, probably Edward Scissorhands,
Yeah.
and then you get into like that's like the young,
Hmm.
the 80s, whatever. And then you have like the 90s kind of Bram Stoker's Reality Bites. Um, and then I hadn't really, until this film, I hadn't really, maybe like, okay, Girl Interrupted. She
Hmm.
was in Scanner Darkly, the Linklater film. But it was like, I can't really think, I mean, there was the Alien Resurrection.
Hmm.
I can't think of stuff from the 2000s. I think Scanner Darkly was mid 2000s, something like that. But I don't
Yeah.
remember what else I would have seen her in. until this again.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because the Barbara Hershey thing is kind of like, think about athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have your like prime, and then after that, it's kind of like, because it's the same thing with like, yeah, dancers. You're using your body, certain kind of dances too. It's kind of like this is the age range.
Mm-hmm.
Porn.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was an article or it was this, and this was years ago, where it was talking about how the cam thing was like the saving grace for porn stars or for would-be porn stars at a certain range, because either the way that it's in that version of Hollywood, the other Hollywood, is that
North Hollywood, yeah.
you have the like 18 plus, kind of like supposedly like the teen fantasy age range.
Yeah.
And then you have the MILF age range.
Yeah.
And so if you're like in this mid-20s range, you know, pun intended, you're kind of fucked, because, or, you know, you're not, because you're not falling into those genre, like into that age range of like genre fantasy. So it's kind of like it's harder to place you in that kind of casting thing.
Yeah.
And so for Barbara Hershey, it's MILF, Psycho Mom range.
Mm-hmm.
For Natalie Portman, it's like, okay, young enough, which is interesting, because if you look at like if we compare this to like the Winona Ryder thing, if you think of the casting for Natalie Portman is interesting too, because we have I don't know if that was her first role, but The Professional, Leon.
Yeah.
Leon. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing that I remember seeing her in was she has a small role in Heat,
Mm-hmm.
as the daughter who fucking has self-destructive tendencies, and she's a fucking brat. But I mean, obviously, she's all fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't remember. Oh, and then obviously there was fucking Star Wars Episode 1.
Well, the one you're missing is where she plays not as intense a Lolita character, but definitely a flirtatious young girl who's trying to figure things out, is Beautiful Girls. I don't know if you ever saw that. But that was an
I don't know that film.
Well, it's an ensemble cast with Matt Dillon, Michael Rappaport,
Oh, so it's 90s.
yeah, and then
Timothy
Hutton.
Yeah.
It's a Miramax film. There you go. But Timothy Hutton kind of falls. It's weird because he imagines her as the ideal woman if he were a 13-year-old boy as well. That's the way it's played, where she's gonna make somebody. It's a guy. It's a guy he's a piano player in the city in New York, and he goes to upstate New York for a reunion to meet up with all of his friends, and he's visiting his dad. He's catching up on old times, but the girl that lives next door is Natalie Portman, and she's kind of a flirtatious young girl who's just she's very girlish in some ways, just like she's just being, but you can tell that she has a little she has a crush on him, and she imagines a future kind of like she's playing it. She wants to be a lot older than she is, but the weird thing about it is that Timothy Hutton kind of starts falling for her as his idealized version of what his life could be, instead of the girlfriend that he has, because he's too afraid to pull the trigger and give up on his dream in order to marry the girl that he's with. But that's a film that a lot of people cite in the sexualization of Natalie Portman. And we live in a fucked up culture where comedy radio show hosts would do this really fucked up thing in the 90s and the early 2000s, where they would set up a clock. 63 days until the Olsen twins are 18. You know what I mean? They would do shit like that. And Natalie Portman would talk about the sexualization of these roles, and later on how it would affect her growth in the industry. So that was a factor in. That's a big movie. Leon, Beautiful Girls, and then into Black Swan, which would win her Oscar, and I think probably justifiably. I can't remember who she was up against, but it is a pretty great performance. It runs the gamut. It hits a lot of points, and it's a really honest, I think, portrayal. Although there are a number of ballerinas who say that this film is complete bullshit, but
I mean, sure.
Yeah. So that's that.
You're gonna get that.
Oh, all the time. There's going to be people who are going to have problems with how something is depicted.
Yeah, I think there are probably exceptions to this, but I kind of see her in a lot of roles where she's adjacent to this dark male figure, and just seems young and vulnerable and put in this position. V for Vendetta, for example.
Yes.
Even Star Wars, where she's obviously royalty, whatever, but she's next to this fucking psycho.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah. This psycho fucking popular fucking villain. For his own fucking reasons. Who's adjacent to a dark male himself. But all the performances are solid.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not going to say this is a great film. I just think it's a really good film. Off of the trajectory of Perfect Blue, compared to Requiem, I think Requiem is a better film. I think Requiem is a more creative film, but this is a solid way to tell that story. Especially when, going back to In the Company of Wolves, this is something that In the Company of Wolves was fairy tale, and more, it wasn't really plot driven. It was just more, it was like story, but not necessarily plot.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you get the thematics, you get the plot though, because there's of all the twists and turns. This happens, then this happens, then this happens. Turning point. Yeah. All is lost. Blah blah. So it's a good way to tell that story, in a way that isn't necessarily plot twist like fucking Fight Club.
Yeah.
Which did it well without Shyamalaning it. Which is to say, da 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 da. At the very end, boom, plot twist, and I'm so amazing. I'm so creative. I'm gonna do this forever.
Yeah.
So.
That sounds like a dig at a director, but.
I mean, yeah, Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Not a plot twist.
I was on point then. Yeah.
And. It could have fallen into the thing where it's like, oh, this is Aronofsky's version of Fight Club, or his. But I don't feel that. I don't feel. I mean, it is, but I don't feel that I want to reduce it to that. But you could say that. You could
Yeah.
say that this is partially his version of Perfect Blue, but I don't want to reduce it to that either.
Well, I
I'm not going to.
I don't want to reduce it to anything but comparisons abound, and I think if you're going to compare it to anything, you compare Aronofsky in this case because he makes it so blatant. You compare Aronofsky to Aronofsky, and you look at this film and you look at Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler, and
Yeah.
that's where the
Hmm.
real because two handlings of two very similar, I would say almost identical material, but completely different storytelling elements, I guess is what I would say. But it's the same
Yeah, the
story.
circumstances. Yeah.
The same beginning, the same end, except Randy Rhodes is already washed up. She's going the
She's
obsession.
ascending.
Yeah, she's not an ingenue, but she's starting off. But the obsession is there. The self-destructiveness is there, and the inability to cope with everything that's around them is there. But the wrestler is a little bit, as silly as it sounds, the wrestler in its depiction of wrestling as a sport is more grounded in reality. This film goes into her fragile mental state, which makes it more of a psychological horror film. And I think it earns that moniker, and I think it is great because I think it is a great film because of its ability to really go with the genre and make it exciting again, and make you be on the edge of your seat. And between the two of us and everybody else listening, I prefer watching The Wrestler, but I can't say that it's a better film. I don't know if Black Swan is a better. I don't know if Black Swan is a better film, but I, I can say that both films achieve their goals with incredible success. That's my opinion.
I mean, even I agree with you, and even the whale
Yeah.
is part of this like triptych of like parent
Mm-hmm.
child relationship, self-destructive, very physical, a character who is very, very connected to his or her body,
Yeah.
how that affects
Wow.
how their basically life choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that every character is about that, but I mean how their life choices, very specific to their body, affect their relationships with those around them, affect their world. Ultimately, like they have a choice, and we see them like there's this aspect of like the physical leap, and also this almost like leap of faith thing where it's like, are you crossing the threshold into like the distance that's been established between yourself and your loved one, the threshold of like the choice between something that you know is going to destroy you, but you'd rather live in, you'd rather be immortal in that role as this icon, and you take that leap, or the potential out of control shit that you could unleash when you cross that threshold into those unknown dark areas of yourself that you haven't been willing to address or much less embrace for your whole fucking short adult life. You take that leap, and ultimately, like, each person is destroyed. Each person is basically has to go after their whale, their fucking white whale, their fucking Moby Dick obsession. And they're all well handled stories, and interesting that he's been able to do versions of that story in different ways, and still not have it be like, oh, here we fucking go again, because they're different enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd be down to see him do that again, because I want to see um, like show me another version of
Mm-hmm.
this story. Let me cross that threshold with you again. You know what I mean? And I mean, on some level, on a very low level, like I do also as a fucking American, draw inspiration from these kind of stories where it's like, what areas, what dark areas am I not addressing where I can, by addressing them, I can actually maybe not be, but I can feel more, with quotes, free or more authentic or more whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, oh, who am I going to fucking cut off on the road today? Fucking assholes. Or, you know, who am I going to grope? Or who the fuck am I going to steal from or fuck over or whatever. It's not, I sent you this thing on Instagram of, it said if Harry Potter were American.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows him holding a fucking revolver and it's like, oh, and it's like shining. And then it's the Hermione character is like sorry to the whatever other character because I don't really know those films that well, but then like she shoots him with the fucking revolver and then he falls over stiff dead. And it's like, yeah, sounds about right. We're not going that route I mean, obviously not literally, but I mean in terms of like that attitude of like, fuck everybody else, I'm gonna get mine, I'm gonna embrace my fucking Black Swan. Just in terms of like, even it's as simple as like, you play the music just a little bit louder, just to remember that you're fucking alive. You know what I mean? You do something to remind yourself that you can draw outside the lines a little bit. Just a little bit. And see what that does for you. Because those little things they can add up.
Yes, they do. Yes, they can. Well,
have that extra fucking cup of coffee. Buy us an extra cup of coffee.
Who do we
promote yourself? You know, don't think of it as shame. Think of it as pride. Think of it as self-respect. BuyMeACoffee.com. Tommy Tickle. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Embrace your black swans. As Vincent Cassell tells Nina, go masturbate. That's my advice for all of us today. Go fucking masturbate. Not in public. In private.
Well, maybe on the train as you stare at a cute girl, right? That was a fucked up saying. Thank you.
Was there part of you that wanted her to fucking like say something to him?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Me too. Because it's like Mila Kunis's character would have done something to fucking humiliate him.
Yeah. How do you humiliate
she may not
a guy
have
that's
gotten
jerking off on the subway? We're way past humiliation.
Well, he's trying to humiliate. He's trying to humiliate her.
Yeah.
And he's not expecting to be confronted. He's confronting. He was capable of being humiliated and being like fucked with, as he should have been. So on the subway, maybe not so much.
Maybe not.
But stand up for yourself.
It should be the mantra. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your continued love and support. We'll be back next week. Can't wait. Bye-bye.